Hey guys, my name is Evan. Welcome to Country View Acres. So I finally ended up buying a round baler to bale hay with this year. I have been looking for a round baler for a year now. Ever since the TYM tractor, we got that here on the property, I've been looking for a 4x5 or like a 4x6 baler to be able to run. And I've been looking locally. I usually buy my equipment locally at auctions or people that's selling it, and then I normally just pull it home through the country because I don't have a big equipment trailer to be able to haul something like this. So I haven't been able to find something in a year, that's for sure. And anything I did find went a lot more expensive than I wanted to pay for. So I decided I would go a different route. I ended up buying this from an equipment dealer, and I bought that a week and a half ago, and they delivered it and dropped it off today. So I ended up buying a Gehl 1475. This is a 4x5 baler. And the great thing about it is it's only a minimum of 50 horsepower. So besides being able to run it on the TYM tractor, I can run it on the Allis-Chalmers D17 and the Case 730 tractor as well. I can run it on all my tractors as long as I have the hydraulic connections to be able to open the back gate. So just pulled it up here for the first time, and I want to go ahead. I'm going to grease this up real quick. We're going to try to get everything greased up. We're going to try to get it connected to the tractor, and then we're going to try to just kind of run it through its paces and make sure everything works on it the way it's supposed to, or at least appears that way, and see if we find anything that needs to be fixed. So let's go ahead and start lubing this thing up. So luckily I was able to find a manual online, a free manual. I was able to download it. So I was able to read about this before I ever bought it, and at least I knew I was going to have a manual as well. So I'm going to just kind of use that manual to try to locate all these grease points. So this baler is a twine baler. It's not net wrap. And on each side there's a compartment that holds 3 rolls of twine. You gotta look in here. I found this when I went to the dealer. Pretty good sized bird nest in here. Oh yeah. Yeah, when I went to go look at the dealer, like a dove flew out of here. And obviously it was the one that probably made this nest. I got a feeling that it'd been building a nest in there for quite some time. I'd say that's another indicator that this hasn't ran in a little bit. Another reason to make sure we get it lubed up real good. So I've been studying up on this baler over the last couple weeks, and this here is the pressure on your bale tension mechanism, and that should be between, I think, 110 to 150. So it's reading about 80, so this is a little bit low. So to raise the pressure back up onto the bale tension, you just need to add air into this pressure tank. So there's a little air valve on top where you can hook up an air hose and air this up, and we just need to get it above 110 psi. And this pressure tank is air over oil. The very bottom of this is hydraulic fluid, and the hydraulic fluid pushes out of here, and it ends up running the hydraulic system for the bale tensioner. So right here is where the oil level is supposed to be in this pressure tank, and you can see from this sight glass that the oil level is all the way down here. So it needs to go up about 2.5 inches. So the oil is low in here right now, and we'll have to add some more in there. So to add oil in here, you got to take pressure off of this tank anyway, add the oil in, and then pressure it back up. I'm not going to be baling hay today, so I'm not even going to worry about that, and I'll make sure that that gets done before we bale hay the first time. All right, I think I got everything greased up now. The only other thing I found wrong was down here on the pickup, a few of the teeth or tines are broken, so I may have to order a few of those. So I'm going to go ahead now, we're going to hook up the PTO shaft. We're going to get the hydraulic hoses hooked up. Now the hydraulics is what opens and closes the back of the baler and lets the bale roll out of the back. And then we got to get the electronics hooked up. So it comes with this monitor, like electronic monitor, that you can monitor the operation of the baler, and then it has an auto tie system also. So we've got to get that electronics in the baler or inside of the cab of the tractor and hooked up, and then I think we'll be ready to just kind of start this thing up and just run it through its paces. So this baler actually has a spot to hold the PTO shaft, And then this is like a double U-joint here at the end. I think there's a name for that. I can't remember what it's called. But having a double U-joint like this allows it to basically be able to take a tighter turn, and it's less stress on the PTO shaft. So this baler does have brake lights and turn signals. So it's got a trailer plug here that you can plug in to get your tail lights working. So this is the electronics for the baler. There's a couple versions of this, but this is the nicer one. This is the auto tie version. So this monitors the baler, it monitors the size of the bale, tells you when it's ready to tie the bale, tells you when it's done so that you can eject it out of the back, and then it tells you when it's closed and ready to start baling again. So this is the electronic controls for the baler. Now this is going to go in the cab of the tractor, and this cord goes back and it plugs in here to the baler, and it splits. The cord splits. Actually, this other end of the cord, this is supposed to hook to power, to 12-volt power. They tell you to run this directly to the battery. So we're going to have to figure out how to get the electronics. We'll get them into the cab, and then we'll try to figure out where we're going to get 12-volt power from. So go ahead and plug in the electronics to the baler connection here. So to run the electronics in here, there's this grommet here that slides out of the window. And then you can run your electronics to the inside, just like so. I'll go ahead and put this back in. Help clamp that a little bit. All right, there we go. So now the question is going to be, where am I going to get my 12-volt power? Should I have ran it into the cab of the tractor and maybe to the fuse box possibly? I'll have to look there. Or I'd have to run it all the way to the front of the tractor, right to the battery. So give me a second, I'll figure this out. I don't know if she's long enough to make it to the front. She ain't. So I've looked around for 12-volt power, and we did have some right back here. There's actually a connector right here. It's 10 amps max. And the bale electronics is 20 amps. So that connector is not enough. Now there is the cigarette lighter that's inside the cab, and that one is also 10 amps max. So both 12-volt connections that I have are not quite big enough to run the electronics and the auto tie on this baler. So I've just ran it up to the battery. So what I'm going to probably do is I'm going to get some wire. I got to get some wire, and I'm going to run me another 12-volt connection back here to the back where I can hook it up. That is a 20 amp or a 12-gauge wire, basically, so I can run the baler off of it. So I went ahead and I've just done this temporarily right now, and I've got the monitor hooked up. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull it out so I can show it to you. Well, it powered up. Looks like they did 194 bales last time. So over here is the height of the bale. And I believe right now that little hash mark off to the side is probably how big of a bale that it's set to make. So it looks like they're making just over a 4-foot diameter bale. So they weren't quite making a full 5-foot diameter. And then there's an arrow next to this baler. It's telling you to pull forward to make a new bale. So I'm gonna hold down the enter button, and I'm gonna try to get the lifetime bale counter to come up. There we go. So the first number is thousands, so 3,976 bales. Less than 4,000 bales on this baler, and it's probably over 20 years old. That ain't bad. All right, moment of truth. Let's see if we can spin this thing up. I'm gonna go ahead and test the hydraulics. I guess that's closed. There's open. Well, I don't know exactly what I'm looking at, but I think everything looks fairly good. Close it back up. Well, it looks like I got an error code when I turn the monitor on. Error 6. Error 6. Shuttle not returned. Oh. Pretty sure that's a top. Oh, wow. A lot of slack there. All right. So I got air code 6, which meant the shuttle wasn't returned, and that's the top of this that does the belt tension. And I pulled that back, so I think the air code will clear now. I'm gonna go ahead and kick the PTO on. Well, the belts didn't actually roll. It looked like the drum rolled and the pickup rolled, but the belts didn't roll. So I don't know if that's a tension thing, like since there's not enough tension in it. We're gonna go ahead and put some more air in here. Hopefully that'll help the belt tension and this will work better. About 115 pounds on the air. The hydraulic pressure is showing about 130. Hopefully the belts will turn. Let's try it. I'm gonna go ahead and open the gate again, see if we get the same alarm. I guess everything just needs exercised. Oh, good. No alarm that time. All right, we'll try the PTO again. Hey, look at that. Belts are moving. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and rev it up, I guess. All right. Go ahead and shut her down. Boy, I think I'm pretty happy with that. We got her rolling. She wasn't giving the air no more. So earlier when I was messing with the electronics, I was able to test the electronic tie where it runs the twine over the bale. And I was able to jog that in manual back and forth. And it looked like everything worked fine. I did try to cycle an auto cycle, and it ran out there to the bale, and it sat there and it ended up airing out. And I think that's because it realized that the twine didn't get pulled into the bale. That's my best guess. So as far as I can tell, it looks like everything's gonna work the way it should. And I don't think there's anything else that I'm gonna do to it today. It just looks like there's gonna be a few minor repairs down here, maybe getting some of the tines for the pickup teeth down there. Other than that, I think we're not going to find out whether it really bales until our first cutting of hay. So we're going to use it on our first cut of hay and try to make round bales, and then we'll finally find out whether this works or not. But so far it's looking good. So I was told at the dealership that this was a local trade-in and that the people that owned it just had a few steers or a few horses, and that they only baled a few bales a year. And from what we can tell, that looks to be true. So the paint on here is not faded terribly bad, so I think that this has probably been kept inside. It looks like it's been taken care of. And then the bale counter was less than 4,000 bales for its lifetime. And this is probably from around 1998, around 2000, early 2000s. Probably one of the last balers that Gehl actually made. So this is probably more than 20 years old. Less than 4,000 bales on it. So that to me, that still shows that it's probably a low use machine. So hopefully this is going to be good for us and work well. And we're not going to find out till first cut. So before I end this video, I thought I would take you back and give you a hayfield update. A lot of people have been asking for updates. So we'll go look at our original hayfield. So this will be our third year cutting it. And then we'll go look at our new hayfield that we planted last fall, that we plan to cut this year. So let's go check out the hayfields. So this was the first hayfield we planted, and this was alfalfa, orchard grass, and timothy. And the first year it really thrived in alfalfa. The second year it really was mostly orchard grass. And we did not cut this last year. This was really tall last year. Didn't get third cut because of my work schedule, and I was afraid that we'd have a bunch of dead grass mixed in our hay because this kind of turned brown in the wintertime. But right now, everything looks nice and green. You don't see no brown. And it's mostly orchard grass, I believe. Now there is a little bit, you can see there's a little bit of alfalfa mixed in here, but definitely the alfalfa is a lot less than it used to be. I was afraid it was actually gone, but it appears there's still some alfalfa in here, and it seems to do better in the dry weather. But overall, the grass is very tall. So if you look here, you can see the grass. This is my knee right here. The grass is already, some of it is already over my knee. So definitely very tall, and that's because we didn't get it cut last year. So I think it's got a really early start this year, so it's almost ready to be cut. It's just, I don't think we'll end up with enough dry weather to be able to cut it very soon. So here's our new hayfield, and the first thing that I notice is that this is paler green. It's not as dark as the other field, and that's because it doesn't have as much nitrogen. And last year we didn't put any fertilizer in this. Last year we just put lime in here to adjust the pH, and we planted red clover in here. If you look down, you can see all this red clover that's in here. So that red clover should end up, it should put nitrogen in the soil here, and it should feed the grass. So I'm going to give this time, and hopefully I don't have to add nitrogen to get this to look better. I think I want to try not to, and see if we can do it naturally and let the clover feed the rest of the grass. So we planted this hayfield in orchard grass, red clover, meadow fescue, and timothy. I think it was just 4 different things that we planted in here. So 3 different grasses, plus we got this red clover to help infuse nitrogen in the soil to feed the rest of the plants. So the hayfield looks really good. We do have a few weeds that are popping up in here. So when you look down and you see these right there, that is not red clover. That is some kind of weed that's grown up. I think that stays fairly short. So what I think is going to happen, and you can see that those little red weeds throughout this, but I think what you're going to see is this grass is going to get taller and taller. In fact, this has changed a lot in the last week, because you could really see those weeds, but now the grass is starting to get taller than that. And I think they'll eventually smother all that out, and we'll just have everything that we planted. But you get in some sections, like right here, and you can really see the color of those weeds in there. But I think as soon as the grass gets a couple feet tall, it'll pretty much smother all that out, and it'll just take over. So far I think the hayfield's looking pretty good. So overall the hayfield has filled in very well. We got a couple spots that's not. So right here, this isn't very filled in. And when you look at it, you can look down and you see a bunch of these weeds. Now there is some red clover in here, but when you look up through this, there's not really any grass. And it seemed to not, the grass didn't germinate in this area. Did get a little bit of red clover to germinate, but that's not a very big little spot right there. And then when you go around the edge, it seems like around the edge, you can see it's sparse right here. And then sometimes the last 8 feet around the edge of the field is not the best. But the majority of the middle of the field is actually looking pretty good. So you can tell there is a major difference between this hayfield and last year's hayfield that didn't get cut at the end of the year. So it was already tall. It died back a little bit in the winter, but it's already come back, and it's 18 to 24 inches tall. As in this hayfield, we're probably close to this, somewhere between the 4 to 8 inches tall, depending on where you're at in the field. And there's probably a few high spots here and there, but overall this hayfield is several weeks behind the other one. So we won't be cutting these at the same time by any means. I can already see that. So it may end up, I want to make sure that this is established and it looks good before I do the first cut. So I do want to make sure that it is fairly mature this first time. So it may not get cut until we're already on our second cutting on the other field. We'll just have to wait and see how that turns out. But really looking forward to hay season this year. Looking forward to making some round bales, maybe making this a little bit easier on me, especially when I get older. I think the round bales will definitely be better as far as less work. I can do it all from the tractor instead of handling square bales. And we got the hay bind. We still need to fix the hay bind that we picked up last year. And hopefully we'll be doing that here pretty soon. So I suspect we'll be cutting hay probably within the next month or so. We may get our first cut depending on the weather. The first cut is always the worst because it's never dry enough. So we'll just have to wait and see when that ends up. But hopefully we'll be working on the hay bind here pretty soon. And then we'll get to finally test the round baler when we cut this field over here. But I think that's it for today. I think I've got all my pieces of equipment that I need for hay now, you know. So I've got a round baler and a square baler. So I've got two options. I've got a sickle bar and I've got a hay bind. So I've got two options for cutting. So I feel like if a piece of equipment breaks, you know, that I can probably swap and use the other one. So I feel pretty good now that I've got at least options when I go to cut hay. So I think that's it for today, guys. So thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.